Hi guys, in this video we are going to analyse the poem Poppies, and the first thing we look at is context. So here are two of the key points that we should know, and those are that Weir tries to understand the suffering that death causes, and she does this by exploring the impacts of war on those who are closest to the soldiers. Now she does this very well by using the example of a mother and a son, because that's a very close link. So those are two of the key contextual points. There are other ones, for example, that Weir wrote this poem in response to a request by Carol Ann Duffy for war poetry, and that the British soldiers were still dying in the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq when this poem was written. But these are the two main key points that you can easily implement in your essays. And the next thing we look at is the form of this poem. And here, the form is a first-person narrative. And there's a lot of caesura that's used in this poem, and it can highlight the hesitancy of the emotions being held back by the mother. So that's the form. Now we look at the attitudes. And the three main attitudes are loss, fear, and freedom. So we will explore these attitudes once we start to annotate. But those are the three main ones. And then we link to other poems. Now, the other poems I would link to is War Photographer, Kamikaze, and The Emigre. But remember that these are not the only poems that you can link to. It is all about the question. So whatever the question is asking you to look at, so effects of war, looks at memories, that is what kind of poems you need to look for. So these ones are all about war. So just remember, whenever you're looking at a poem, you need to look at the question and see what other poem you can link, which has the same theme or which has the same attitudes, so that you have a good, strong linking back point. So now we're going to look at the poem, and just quickly we're going to go through a summary of what happens. So a mother is describing her son who's leaving home, and this is seemingly to join the army. And the poem focuses on the mother's emotional reaction. So she's sad, she's lonely, and she's scared for her son's safety. And then she goes to places which remind her of him, and she's desperately trying to find traces of him. So that's the quick summary of the poem Poppies, just to help you understand. If you want to go through the summary and the context in more detail, there are other videos, separate videos just on summary and just on context for this poem on this channel, so you can go and look at those. I'll put them in the description box. So the first quote that we look at is here. So the quote says, individual war graves, and let's look at the caesura that's over here. And it's signaling the start of the mother's remembrance, but it highlights that war affects all people. Now, when we think of a caesura, it's like a stopping point, and it's like the emotions of the mother are being held back. And when we talk about the effects of war on all people, this could be further highlighted where it says individual war graves. So with every individual, they have a family, they have people who love them. So imagine the extent, the huge number of people that are being affected. Now, the next quote is a very good quote. Is quite a symbolism. So let's look at it. So this quote says, "Black thorns of your hair." Now, this is symbolism because it could highlight how her son is a sacrifice, and it links to religious imagery or the fact that Jesus wore a thorn crown. So it's highlighting, is symbolizing how her son is a sacrifice. So this may be how the mother, is viewing her son being taken to the army, to join the army, to fight in the war. So she's imagining him as a sacrifice. Again, just before we move on, there's another full stop here. So there's another caesura, and it can highlight how she's trying to hold back her emotions. Now, a mother and a son, the link between them, the emotional attachment is very strong. So it's it seems that it's quite hard to control all those emotions, and there's a lot of caesura in this poem to highlight that. So the next quote says, "The world overflowing like a treasure chest." Now this is a simile and is enjambment. And this can link to a key contextual point where we know that World War One happened for land and economy, and the people have too much wealth and greed to care about the dead. So as the wars are going on, people have too much wealth, so the world overflowing like a treasure chest. They've got so much wealth and greed that they don't care about the dead. So they don't care about the soldiers who are coming to fight in the war, because they're going to die eventually, because there's so much violence. And also the enjambment is a visual symbolism. So it's visually symbolizing, so you can see how the words are literally overflowing. So the enjambment is highlighting further how there's so much wealth and there's so much greed. The people have become so selfish that they don't care about the dead. So they don't even care about the soldiers who are being recruited to join the army and go and fight in the wars. So they don't have the same feeling as the people who live at home, for example, the mother. So just as another little extra point here, the mother is feeling all of these feelings because it's her son. And it could highlight how all of the people who are in the who are recruiting actually don't care. First of all, they don't have the feelings. They don't have the same feelings as the parents, so the family does. Because there's so much wealth and there's so much greed, they know that the soldiers are being recruited. They know they're going to die. There's no care for them, and it's a hint that the mother is worrying about her son's safety. So she does not know if he's alive or if he's dead. And this may be worrying her quite a lot, because again we see the caesura here. So again, she's holding back her emotions. So the next quote I've picked says, "Later a single dove flew from a pear tree." Now this is symbolism of peace and mourning. We know that usually doves come in pairs, so it symbolizes the mother and the son. However, this is a single dove, so the mother has been left isolated at home. So she's on her own. She's not with her son anymore. Doves come in pairs, and her pair has been taken away from her, so she's isolated. So this is a further analysis, it further highlights how the mother is feeling very alone, and she's feeling lonely, and she's feeling upset, and she's scared for her son's safety. So that is one of the key quotes from this poem that you should definitely take, because it's highlighting how strong the emotional bond is between the mother and the son, that the mother is now feeling isolated, she's feeling lonely. So the next quote says, "Leaned against it like a wishbone." So here, this is a simile, and it's highlighting the bond between the mother and the son, and how the mother is again now wishing for his safety. So she does not know if he's alive or if he's dead. And that's quite unfair on her, because if the son is at war, the people who are in charge don't care. So it's worrying her even more. So that is another quote you can use to back up the point that she's wishing for his safety and she's quite concerned about him. And the last quote we're going to look at is the very last line of the poem. So as we talked about in the beginning, in the summary, the mother is trying to find traces of her son. So she's she's thinking about a playground. Now this could be a contextual link, and the playground could actually be a graveyard. So it could symbolize a graveyard. So because she doesn't know if her son's dead or alive. So that's a very key explanation for this quote. So that's the importance of the very last quote. And if we think about the attitudes, we can link it to loss, because she's lost her pair. So doves come in pairs, and now she's a single dove. And there's fear because she's anxious and fearful for her son's safety. Now, she doesn't know if her son's alive or not. So the playground here could symbolize a graveyard. And if we're looking at freedom, we can think about how the mother might actually be happy and excited for the freedom that her son might be getting because of the experience he's getting of going out, going to war. He's independent now. But I think that the main two attitudes you can link here, specifically for this quote, is loss and fear. Because she's lost her pair, she's a single dove now, and she's fearful. She does not know if her son's alive or not. So that was the analysis of the poem Poppies. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching.